Welcome. You're now listening to episode 3, Style of Play Football. Myself, Theo, and Kojo. Kojo, what you saying? How you doing?
Yeah, always good, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Sun is shining. The sun, you see when the sun's shining, it's just a different mentality, and it like you could be having the worst day. You step outside and the heat just hits you, and it's just like, yeah, okay,
Yeah, it is a lovely day today. I'm not a big fan of what they call the wasps, but
yeah.
hey, man, somebody must take the heat for a bit. If they come, I just gotta remember not to try and hit them because they fight back. You know what
I
I'm
done that
saying?
the other day. Like I went to swat one away, came back twice as hard, came back twice with a vengeance. It was mad, but yeah, man, it's always good. I was gonna say it's always good to talk football if you're not a United or Chelsea fan after the weekend. Before we get into this episode, please go and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Make sure you hit the notification bell as well. Also do the same on Spotify and follow the Twitter account. I nearly said X, but follow the Twitter account. We're going to try and build that up now as well. But let's go back to the weekend's results. So if we go back to the first game was on Friday, was Luton against West Ham. That was 2-1. Very good result for West Ham. Pushes them almost to the top of the league before the Saturday games kicked off. Then we had Sheffield United, Everton 2-2. Brentford, Bournemouth 2-2 as well, respectfully. Burnley 2, Tottenham 5. Harry Kane, who? Where is he? Chelsea 0, Forest 1, Man City 5-1, winners against Fulham. Brighton 3-1, winners against Newcastle. On the Saturday fixtures, and then a couple on the Sunday was Crystal Palace Wolves. Crystal Palace won that 3-2. Liverpool thrashed, which I will say was a thrash in the way that they played against Aston Villa 3-0.
Yeah.
And obviously the controversy against Arsenal United, there's a lot of talking points in that one that ended 3-1 to Arsenal. But as always, start of the podcast, Kojo, what results were you shocked about? And you can't pick the United one this time, actually.
Oh no, don't worry about that. If you're looking for a shock, this is gonna sound it might sound disrespectful, but I'm genuinely shocked that Everton were able to score 2 goals this weekend because to me, they just look toothless all over. Now, funny enough, the 2 players I do like in their team are the 2 attacking players, Danjuma and Beto.
Yeah.
And I think Beto looks really good already. So I'm thinking at some point, if they can get some sort of system working just to get them on the score sheet and just try and score as much as they can, they might be okay. But they are a team that just look out of sorts and unconvincing. And when they went behind against Sheffield United, I thought it was just another day in the office. I thought it was another game they're going to lose. And these are 2 teams that are going to fight to stay in the Premier League this year. So I thought they're in trouble. But they managed to put it back, and that just shocked me. It's very early in the season. I'm not sitting here saying I'm expecting Everton to not really win any games. They will get wins on the table, but I just didn't see them getting a result here. So as bad as that sounds, that to me is my shock because I just don't know where that second goal is coming from. So they got to be very thankful to Danjuma, big time. What are you saying?
Firstly, I agree with I agree with that with Everton. I thought Decore had a really good game. He's been been a very sort of big, important player for them the last couple of games, even the back end of last season. You know, he scored the goal on the last day of the season to keep them up, essentially. But yeah, I mean, look, Sheffield United played well in that game. They played really well. Cameron Archer, I think, made his debut, scored 1, assisted another, I think, and also, he didn't assist. Well, technically he did assist because it was an own goal, I think, off Jordan Pickford. Technically assisted, but I still think Everton, for me, I like Beto. I watched him in the League Cup as well when he came on second half, made his debut, and looked very sharp, looks lively as well. 6 foot something, really good striker to have, and Danjuma, like you said as well. But I do worry still. I think I said it on here a couple of weeks ago. I still worry about where they get their points from. How can they go on a consistent run? I think they've just lost Damari Gray to the Saudi League now as well. I think he's agreeing a deal over there. So they've lost a key player in him. Iwobi's gone as well. I think they've lost a couple of defenders. So the window's shut now. The window's shut. But my shock really, I think, it wasn't really a shock, but I was shocked that Crystal Palace won against Wolves. And not because Wolves should be beating them. I just think they're 2 teams that I did not see a 5-goal scoreline coming out of it. I just didn't see that. I thought it was going to be a very poor draw. Very much like we just spoke about Everton, Crystal Palace don't really have, or both teams don't essentially have a proper out and out striker. You know,
Mm.
Edward, okay, you could say so, maybe to an extent, but Wolves, I think will struggle. I think we said that on the opening episode of the season that they might struggle this season. But even Palace, I mean, I look now. I mean, there's still talk that they potentially could lose Elise still. I know he signed a new deal, but I would assume that's just to ensure that there's more money in the release clause for whenever someone comes in to get him. So they could potentially lose him in January. They could lose him in the
Yeah.
summer. They've lost a lot of key players. Obviously, Zaha was their sort of vocal point as well. But yeah, I was a bit surprised about that. And my other one really was Spurs. I mean, I'll be honest, I did think they might struggle with goals. Without Harry Kane
Yeah.
initially, to start off with. I thought they would probably take a while to get that momentum of goals. But if I'm going to be honest, I got to eat some humble pie because I feel like maybe Harry Kane was stifling the team. And you look at the way that they're playing now, where it's just honeymoon period, maybe under Ange Ball, as people are starting to dub it. But they seem to be able to get that ball to the players like Son, Kulusevski. Obviously James Maddison coming in has probably helped that in terms of how the ball is transitioned from front to back as well. But they look like a really good team. I'm not saying that they're going to win the league or nothing, but they look very sharp.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, actually, no, I do agree. The only thing I'd say about the Kane thing is I think Kane was screaming for a creator, and it's very upsetting for him that I'm not upsetting because he's going to Bayern Munich, and that is an upgrade. But if he looks and says, "Oh, maybe the one thing that would have kept me there is if I was allowed to be a pure nine, Madison
Mm.
would have been perfect for him,
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
perfect for him, because they didn't replace Ericsson. After Ericsson left, they've been looking for a creator for so long. And it just hasn't worked out with like your Lo Celsos and other man them that have come through. So yeah, man, I think they started well, and I like Ange. I liked him at Celtic big time.
Mm.
Um, I'm an advocate of I don't care what level or what level is perceived to be good enough. If I look at you and I think as a coach, you have the right principles and you know how you want your team to play. And more than anything, I like the ruthlessness of him in a kind way. He's not going to shoehorn Eric Dyer into the team because Eric Dyer, he doesn't need to be there. He's not fitting the football, so he's not playing. You ever seen Højbjerg? Hugo Lloris is comfortably number 2 right now.
Mm.
So, you know what I mean? I like that. I like that about him. So when he got hired by Spurs, I did tell some Spurs fans, you're going to be fine. He's really good at his job. Really good. So, yeah, man. Long may it continue for them. I think just for banter's sake, Spurs fans have suffered long enough. I think they deserve something nice. So yeah, there you go.
It's true, man. It's true. I mentioned the transfer window shut last
Mm,
week. Yeah, I mean, I want to start off with the big talking point. I think on transfer deadline day was obviously Mo Salah. The big did come in, whether it's verbal or whether it was submitted in another official way. But the bid came in to Liverpool. I think it was 150 plus. They were going to give him 1.4 or 1.5 million a week in terms of wages,
yeah,
image rights for the next 3 years. Obviously, he wants. I mean, the Saudi league want him to be the face. I think more so than maybe Ronaldo. They might relate a bit more to Mo Salah in that way, to be the face of the league going forward. Now he's 31, I think, at the moment. Mo Salah.
yeah.
He keeps himself in shape, very good shape. He could probably do a Lewandowski, play till he's 35, 40 plus, if he carries on and maintains how he is. First of all, I mean, they refused the 150 million, but now there's still talk of, obviously, the Saudi League, I think, is shutting tomorrow, I think, as we're recording this, so Thursday,
Yeah.
the 7th of September. But 200 million is expected to come in the next 24 hours for Mo Salah. Now, if you're Liverpool, bearing in mind, you might not get this opportunity to get this much money from Mo Salah in a year's time.
Thank you.
Are you taking the money now? Or would you refuse the bid that was initially offered? Do you just count yourself that you've got, Gapco, you've got players there that can do that job now, and
Yeah.
you can go and reinvest that in the January or even more so, probably more likely in the summer window next year. But do you take that fee from the Saudi clubs?
Personally, I think they should have. Now, I know what the thinking was, and I don't disagree. If we sell him now, I mean, when the window was open on that deadline day, do we have enough time to actually go for someone else? And people knowing that we're getting that kind of money, are we going to have to do almost like a similar situation where they did that really bogus deal of we sold Torres for this much, we brought in Andy Carroll for this much. It didn't really make sense, but it might have been another one of those situations. And obviously, Salah's their main goal getter, creator. He's everything. He's everything in that attacking three. No matter who comes in, they have to complement Salah. That's what happens at the end of the day. My thing is, and the bid will come back in January or next summer, so I don't think they're gonna actually lose out. But a bid of that magnitude, I just can't say no. Me personally, I can't say no. If I mean, Man United's main attacker, for example, would be Marcus Rashford. If they came and offered 200 million for Marcus Rashford, I'm saying you gotta get the hell out of here. I'm sorry, it is just what it is, because I think Liverpool, who are now trying to rebuild themselves, that kind of money is incredible. So who you want to try and target? Number two, I genuinely think not that they wouldn't miss Salah, but I think they've got enough to get by without Salah for at least a couple of months. Luis Diaz is back in shape and he's looking good. Jota will always get you goals. Darwin Nunez, even if he's not the cleanest finisher, is always trouble. Cody Gakpo you signed as well. You got options. You've got options to use. I think sometimes you just gotta bite the bullet and say this money is just too good to refuse. It's just too good to refuse. I just gotta take it, because I forgot. I don't think it was the same club, but then the Saudi Arabian club bid 220 million for Kylian Mbappe, and it was accepted by PSG. But obviously, he didn't want to go there. Now, the difference is, I think if Salah gets a chance to go there, he will go. And for people saying, why would you offer that much money for someone at that age? Quite frankly, age is not a factor when it's coming to building this league. They're trying to get reputation first. Reputation, and then bring quality players in. Sometimes lower fees, like a Ruben Neves, good player, add into the squad as well. Young, got years left in the game. Build that reputation, build the quality, and attract more players over. And then it starts to become a very attractive, I want to watch this league kind of league, because, it's not like the China Super League when they first, they went for Hulk, and Hulk was the flavor of the month. But Hulk was never a realistic target for the big boys. Salah's a realistic target for the big boys. Benzema, Ronaldo, these are targets that, Ruben Neves was wanted by bare teams. Yeah. He went Saudi Arabia. I think they're building it properly. And that's why Salah, they were happy to make that bid. So yeah, personally, I'll take it. But I understand why they didn't. I'm not going to fight them for that, because it makes sense. And I don't think they're wrong to reject the offer. I'm just saying, for me personally, you offer for any of my players 200 million, I'll pack your bags. Get out, man. I'll make everything easy for you, man. I'll even pay for your flight.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I think for me, it's that the money involved. I mean, it's a massive amount. Now, I think personally, there's options for Salah. I think the ball's more in Mo Salah's court. He could have forced that move through if he really wanted it. I think he could have said, "Look, I want to go. I'm not happy here," or whatever. I don't think he's that sort of player that would do that. I don't think he would, try and cause a fuss as such to try and move in the window that's just shut. The worry for Liverpool fans, if I was a Liverpool fan, would be, Mo Salah could potentially just wind down his contract now for the next 2 years, knowing that he's still got the opportunity to go and play in the Saudi league as well. Bearing in mind, if Liverpool don't get the fee, there's more than likely a club in Saudi or a club anywhere else that want to offer him those kind of wages. They'll give that fee to Mo Salah, so he could potentially end up getting 150 million in his back pocket rather than going to the club. And still getting his wages, and still getting his imaging rights, and still potentially being a president or some form of governing body in terms of the league later on in life. So that would be my worry as a Liverpool fan, because let's be honest, they don't spend a lot of money. Liverpool, they have splurges, but they don't. They'll activate a release clause. I think Szoboszlai and McAllister were both release clause activations.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily go out and spend big. So that kind of money, I think, would allow them to do that a bit more. Maybe FSG would say, look, we've got 200 million there. We're willing to spend 100 million, 150 million on players. Me personally, it's a no-brainer to just accept that. Like you said, they've got the firepower in front. They've got the midfield rebuilt now. They still need a right back, in my opinion. They still need another centre back. That would have been my opportunity to go and do that, address that then, and then potentially go and look at Bukayo Saka would be a brilliant player for Liverpool, for Jurgen Klopp, whether he would want that move. But someone of that kind of caliber, up and coming, but you know what I mean? That's kind of younger generation of Mo Salah coming through, you'd fit right into that team. But I don't know, crazy from Liverpool. Any other shocks or any other key standout transfers that got you thinking, oh, okay,
On deadline day,
yeah, there wasn't really many major big ones. I don't think that I can remember.
not big. I mean, Man United, if I'm talking about for my team, just managed to get through Amrabat at last.
What's your take on that though? Because we spoke about it a while. We were kind of like, or you was kind of a bit on, not on the fence, but I think he's probably not the quality that we need.
I think he's good. I just don't understand the excitement of getting him. Maybe United fans are just thinking more of we need someone to maybe compliment or sometimes give a rest to Casemiro.
Hmm.
I think Amrabat is a good player, but I think a lot of the hype is off the World Cup and not off club form. And from Fiorentina, he has been good,
Hmm.
but I won't say he's been stand out. Now, you don't always have to be a standout to shine. I always say, I think a lot of people were shocked when Man United went for Michael Carrick at Spurs because Carrick was never the first name out of your mouth when you're talking about Spurs players. But you just knew if you watched Spurs play football and how important it was to them, the quality was in abundance. So much so that when he played for United, it took a long time before Man United fans actually appreciated the kind of quality player that we had there.
Yeah, yeah.
So for Amrabat, I've got time for him to come and do his thing, and I think he'll be fine. But I'm not particularly moved. I just want to see if it works for the team because it's more of a coached game rather than a quality players' quality shining through kind of game now football. So Amrabat's there to fulfill what Ten Hag wants in his system rather than show his actual qualities technically and physically. Well, he's going to have to, but I mean, if you're talking about when the individual to take the game by the scruff of his neck, that's not the kind of thing that happens anymore. Now it's more just, follow the tactic. The team that did impress me was Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
Good signings. Good deadline day signings. Origi on loan makes sense. Sangare did not see that coming.
Yeah, crazy.
Did not see that coming. They spent the Brennan Johnson money very well. Very, very well. So, yeah, I think Forest, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the list now. So obviously you mentioned Forest there. For Alex Iwobi, 22 million. I mean, I think Everton paid 45 for him a couple of seasons ago. Again, could have been a crucial player for Everton this season, but going to Fulham. There was another one on here. Cole Palmer. Yeah, Cole Palmer from City to Chelsea.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 42.5 million.
How do you feel about that?
He's a good player. I think he's probably he'll be hopefully one of our more consistent attackers going forward, because I think at the moment, obviously we've got Noni Madueke, we got Mikhailo Mudryk, and I think Cole Palmer can play both sides, so that's very versatile in terms of what we need. But yeah, I mean, he came on against Nottingham Forest very briefly in the second half, I think 60 minutes into it, and he looked good, he looked sharp. I think one of the reasons we brought him in is because of the English quota, in terms of obviously Callum Hudson-Odoi left to go to Nottingham Forest as well, so I think we just needed to make sure we had a level of English players in the squad to meet that quota that we need to in terms of the Premier League. So, but I think he's a good player. I think he's a really good player. There's always this thing around, if Pep lets someone go, there's a reason why he lets them go, and all that stuff. And part of me does agree with that 100%. But then I look at, I mean, look, sometimes a player that doesn't work with a particular manager doesn't mean that he's not good enough to be in another squad. So I think if we can get him playing the way that Pochettino wants him to play, then we've got ourselves a bargain. 42 million for Cole Palmer could be a good player for us. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, he started. You could tell he was starting to really get into his groove, because he scored some quite important goals for City so early in the season. So you could see that he was getting into his groove. I think. I'm just trying to think what kind of logic it was for him to join Chelsea, because you have quite heavily recruited in the attacking department in the last year. But I am of the belief that when he was younger at City, he came through as a striker. He started playing as a winger because, quite frankly, if you want to play football, you're not displacing Haaland and Julian Alvarez. It's just not happening. But I think, personally, he's a good challenger to Nicholas Jackson. And I think that's needed, because I've always been a fan of having even 3 strikers in my team. Even if you're playing 1 up front, I still need another 2 just in case. And I think Jackson needs to have his tail up after, well, we'll probably get into it later on, but that miss at home, that you can make. I mean, strikers miss chances. I've seen Henri and Van Nistelrooy, two of the best finishers in history of the Premier League, miss chances from pretty much in front of the line. It happens. So I'm not gonna kill him for that, but it is another interesting thing where they say, well, if you're not gonna finish the chances, there's a kid who started to finish chances.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, man. It's good signing either way. I think the money makes sense. Young's talent, English, homegrown, all the rest of it. So it comes with a little bit of a premium. But I think, if I'm being honest, I think if you had bid earlier in the year, you probably would have had to pay a bit more. So I
Oh
think
yeah.
you've been good with the business there. So yeah, man. Good signing. I think it'll do well, Chelsea.
The last one we forgot about, and this one was mental. But Ansu Fati to Brighton from Barcelona. That is probably the transfer deadline day signing of the window because yes, he's been plagued with a couple of injuries while he's been at Barca, and he hasn't really fulfilled what I think he was supposed to do at Barca. But you just know under this Brighton team, he's going to be a killer instinct in front of that goal.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I like what they're building, man. They have the potential to have um Mitoma and Ciso and Sufati behind Ferguson. That is quality. That's young quality. And I like these guys because all of them play without fear.
Yeah, yeah.
Ferguson plays above his age. He looks like a seasoned striker. His positioning, his movement. Ansu Fati, when he is fit, he's a monster winger. Mitoma, I'd have to even talk about him. He's really scored a crazy goal this season. And Ciso, we know his quality now. We've seen it come to the table. Personally, yeah, man, I think the Premier League might be in trouble. And I like what Brighton do. Every time they lose players, they replace them with ease. It's elite scouting. And Ansu Fati is not one that needs to be scouted, but to pull off that deal, yeah, congratulations. So I think they're in for another great season.
I think that as well. I think I would not be surprised if after the loan deal, because I don't think it's got any options or mandatories in the loan deal at the moment that I can remember, but I would not be surprised if that becomes a permanent move for Brighton eventually. I think they don't normally spend big. They receive a lot of money. They've got funds there that I'm sure they could easily put out there based on the Caicedo and the McAllisters and the Cucureos and all that stuff. They've still got a bit of money there. So I think I would not be surprised if that becomes a permanent deal. Very, very, very good addition to a Brighton squad that was already looking very strong going forward as well. But let's address the elephants in the room. There seems to be a topic every week on here, and it's the same two teams as well. Chelsea, first of all, because going into that game, Forest, you kind of on paper, you look at that team and you think, right, okay, West Ham was a bad one. Luton, okay, you bring yourself back, you redeem yourself a little bit. Then you have that game against Wimbledon, the Carabao Cup. You get into this game now, you think, right, a bit of momentum, international breaks coming up, you want to leave on a bit of a high before you go away, etc. I can't believe it. This is the first time I'm speaking about this game. Remember, today we're recording on Wednesday. The game was on Saturday.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I've calmed down enough and processed what happened in that game or didn't happen in that game for me to even talk about it. That's how mad it was. But I want to hear your assessment. I want to hear what you think, what you thought, like, what really went wrong for Chelsea.
I think Pochettino has a problem where he's trying to find the right balance. I don't know if 5 at the back or 3 at the back, whichever way you look at it, works for you. If I'm being perfectly honest, I don't think it does. And I don't know why he's still persistent with that, because the Pochettino that I've grown to sort of rate is a 4 at the back, 4-2-3-1 manager who absolutely gets the best out of that front 4 and has the 2 midfielders as an incredible solid base. And I think you got players for that. So I don't understand why he's doing 5. I don't know whether it's to fit Chilwell and Gusto in a system where they can go forward. But I'm like, you did that with Danny Rose and Kyle Walker. It might have been years ago, but football is what it was then. It hasn't changed that much within the last 8 years for you to stop that. It can still work, and it does work with most teams. I just think there's an imbalance there. You can see it. You always create chances. You create chances, He came close on a couple of occasions. I mentioned Jackson's miss earlier. It can happen. It's very unlucky, but he should have scored. But yeah, I think there's just an imbalance there. And that comes with the issue of buying so many players. Because now it's like, okay, who do I use? How do I fit them in? Do they go here? Do they go here? We still don't know how to use Mudryk. We don't know if, he's a left winger all day long, but how are we going to get the best of him? Because even him, his confidence is low. And that's another thing as well. Confidence. I think Chelsea players are not 100% confident in themselves yet. My last person, it's hard to get a goalkeeper now, but Robert Sanchez, man, he's not.
I did say this. I did. I called this one out early. I said, we've allowed Mendy to go. We've put Kepa out on loan to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And we've brought in Petrovic as well. But again, yet to see him. I don't know much about him. But Robert Sanchez was dropped by De Zerbi for a reason. There's a reason De Zerbi's dropped you and put Jason Steele in goal.
Yep.
So, or John Steele, Jason.
Jason
Steele. There's a reason why he's put him in goal. Now, he looked, I'm not blaming him at all, really, essentially, for anything that happened on Saturday. But I agree with you. That three at the back is essentially, I think, because one, Pochettino probably doesn't trust Levi Colwill and Dezazi to play as a centre-back partnership. He's put Thiago Silva in there to kind of ensure that there's a bit more defensive cushion. Now, the problem with doing that is you're playing three at the back. You're expecting, when we've got the ball and in transition, for Chilwell, Gusto to potentially become wingers, Levi Colwill to then become the left centre-back, and Dezazi to come the right centre-back. When we lose possession, you're then expecting Chilwell to come back into his natural position as a left wing-back, same for Gusto on the right side. But it's not working. I don't know why we didn't play this formation at all in pre-season. Not one game. We played 4-2-3-1 the whole pre-season, every game, every single game. Now, putting Conor Gallagher next to Moises Caicedo in a double pivot and then allowing Enzo to go forward, I understand the logic a little bit. But if it was Conor Gallagher, you can't do that.
Yeah.
If it's Lavia, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. If it's Conor Gallagher, put him in the 10 and put Enzo next to Caicedo. Just a bit of logic, because you know that Forest, they don't care about bursting through your midfield, bursting through your defence. And they were very good at doing that in terms of their attacking options and going forward and et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. We've got to find something very quick, because I think, time will run out for some of these players already. And I don't mean they'll get sold on. I just mean that, like you said, there's a very wide, options in terms of squad depth. So we could take out Madueke and bring in Cole Palmer now. We can take out Nicholas Jackson, eventually bring in Armando Breuer. All these other players that we've got now. And obviously Fofana's got to come back. Badia Shield's got to come back. Cherry Chalobah, if I'm not mistaken, is still at the club. I don't think he went. Ian Matson's still there. Kukurea is still there, I think. So all these players are there. There's options there. So I think for me, I agree with you. Pochettino has to find that balance, find, for me, his natural starting 11 that you want to try and keep going through this season. But it's looking bleak at the moment. I can't even see where I'm going to say on here now, as I said before, what's the date today? The 6th of September. I'm going to say from here now, we should be picking up minimum. In fact, no, forget that. Let me start again. We should be winning every single game from now until the 21st of October. Every game. And the reason I say that is because we play Arsenal on the 21st of October. Biggest test so far this season. Anything else is a loss. And we shouldn't be talking about losses until the 21st of October now. So we have to see.
Can I just say, sometimes I feel like managers should be alerted when a player is available on the market from your team, the caliber of clubs that want him and what your ambitions are should ring alarm bells. Conor Gallagher is not of the standard. Conor Gallagher is not a bad footballer. No one's cussing him out. He's a good footballer. He is. He's a Premier League level footballer. He's not a Chelsea trying to compete for titles level footballer. He's not, and that's just what it is. There's been many footballers in the past that we all know are so good, but they're just not of the level that you believe will take you to a title or consistent Champions League finishes. I mean, someone that I used to love when I was younger was Mark Viduka. I
Yeah.
think Marvin Duka was a brilliant footballer.
Mm,
But there was a reason why he wasn't playing next to the cream of the crop at United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Newcastle,
mm,
Liverpool, you name it. Because unfortunately, they were able to find players that were just better
mm.
than him. And even if they didn't find players that were better than him, those players left, and he still wasn't part of the plan to bring him in because they found someone else. You know, he wasn't at the level of a Hasselbank. He wasn't at the
Mm.
level of Louis Saha, because United Saha went to United and
Yeah,
busted
it
there
was
as well.
firing.
You
Yeah.
know, he's not, and that's fine. It's absolutely fine. So for someone like Conor Gallagher, you know, again, it's no disrespect. I think the guy's a great footballer, and I think he's a Premier League level footballer. He's just not for Chelsea.
Mm.
And if Chelsea are going to go further, again, for anyone listening, we're not saying, or well, I'm certainly not saying. I know you're not saying that he's out of the team and suddenly results will pick up. That's not how football
No,
works.
no, no.
But if you're looking at trying to build your best 11, quite frankly, I just don't believe it's part of that. So it can be a squad player for you guys, but yeah, for now, I think the sooner Lavia gets involved in the team and quick, and the formation changes, I don't think you're going to see Conor Gallagher too much.
I agree. I think the last thing I want to say is that obviously, for me personally, I think a lot of Chelsea fans have their expectations way too high. I think for me personally, even talking about Champions League or Premier League title races, I think this season, I mean, best case, we do get top four. Anything else for me is a bonus. I think for me personally, I'm just thinking don't finish 13th, and that's not me trying to take that be stupid or nothing. I just think we've had a mad season last year. This season for me is just about building on that. But I think a lot of Chelsea fans are talking about we should be by City, we should be by Liverpool, and we shouldn't. Let's be
Yeah,
honest, we should not be anywhere near those teams because if we want to talk about competing, we haven't got the goalkeeper to do that. We haven't got a striker to do that. Really, essentially, we need two of those. You need to score goals and you need to save goals from going in your net. We ain't got the two key things of the team. So all I'm going to say is that. But let's talk about Sunday. Let's talk
go
about
for it.
Sunday.
Go for it.
I've had my therapy session. I'm over it. But yeah, United obviously lost 3-1 to Arsenal. Very controversial game, I'm going to be honest. I think, it was a very, at times, very 50-50 end to end. I liked it. It was enjoyable. But then I think it was sort of masked over by some of the decisions by VAR that kind of took it away and kind of ruined the game essentially as well. But just give me your thoughts on not even just the result, but the performances, the players, Anthony essentially, especially as well. I want to get your thoughts on him. But yeah, what did you think?
um, I'll be honest. I actually wasn't dissatisfied by Man United's performance. I don't think we played badly. However, I think our first 32 minutes, and I say 32 minutes because we scored on the 33rd minute. Our first 32 minutes were poor.
Mm.
They were very poor. Um, if anyone remembers the first game of the season, Man United played Wolves. We couldn't get the ball past the halfway line. It's because I've noticed there's such a disconnect between the midfield and the defense, and I think it's because although I rate Casemiro highly, Casemiro, if he receives the ball from a Martinez or a
Mm.
Lindelof, who played on that weekend in particular, um, he can't turn around and be sure that Bruno Fernandes or Mason Mount's going to be there. Now, Ericsson played the game. Ericsson's going to be there, but Ericsson, unfortunately, is getting older. He's not as agile. He was never the fastest, but he had a certain agility, a certain balance about him. He hasn't got that as much anymore. He's a lot more slower, a lot more careful with how he uses the ball. So that's why we struggled to bring the ball down. There was a stat that was damning about how many passes we made from like goalkeeper to just before the final third, but we
Yeah.
made zero passes into or in the final third
Mm.
until the goal. It's not good enough. And even the goal came from the fact that Havertz displaced the pass and Rice didn't react quick enough to go to the ball first before Ericsson. So from that, our chance came from one pass to Rashford, who did the rest from there. That's not good enough. Now we got the goal, and after that, we actually did play better. We started to create more chances. We passed a lot more in the final third. It made sense, but that disconnect kept on showing itself every now and then. And this is where I get onto United fans about their criticism of Marcus Rashford, for example, because if anyone saw the game, sort of like, let's say from after we scored to the end of those first 32 minutes, I think is perfect. I think the instruction is for him and Anthony to stay as wide as possible. And there was a clip where Anthony he was by himself. He was all the way by himself. And he was like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Pass it to me. We need to go forward. Bring the ball to me so we can go forward. And they just weren't looking at him. They kept on
Yeah.
going backwards and turning the other way. And the same thing was happening with Rashford as well. So when I say I think sometimes we're being harsh on them, it's because the team's not building up the play to get these guys involved.
Mm.
Your forwards essentially shouldn't have to come so far deep to get the ball. Same thing we criticized Tottenham with Harry Kane. Harry Kane should not be essentially playing near enough a number 8 role to create chances for Son. He's the striker. Chances should be created for him. And that's why he's missing that creator. And I think Man United, even though Bruno Fernandes creates a lot of chances, are actually missing a lot more of a subtle chance creator. Arsenal took advantage of that and eventually went on to win the game. I don't think Arsenal were fantastic. I think they were good. I don't think they were fantastic. But the things that alarmed me was that we conceded 35 seconds after we went ahead.
That was it.
That's alarming. Number 2, we can go into talk about Glazers and this, that, and the other, but there is no reason for Man United to end the game with Johnny Evans and Maguire in defence. That just should not be happening. That should not be happening. And you can tell if you want something that epitomizes the lack of confidence in the Harry Maguire is when he came on, Onana started playing consistent long balls. He wasn't passing the ball at the back anymore, which means he said, I can't trust this guy.
Yeah.
Or even if I pass it to Lindelof, I still can't trust that guy because if the ball goes to him, we might be in trouble.
Yeah.
That's the second one. Decisions, by the way, I mean, let's see the key ones. Havertz, I think, was correct because I think if he gets caught when Wan-Bissaka originally puts his foot in, penalty all day long. But he puts his foot in, withdraws his foot.
You reckon he puts it back in a bit? He leaves his leg back in?
No, so he puts his leg in and he sort of like brings it back out and then sort of does that thing where you jump and put your arms in the air to say, I'm trying not to touch you.
Yeah.
And Havertz's left foot sort of went into his knee. So for that, I was like, okay, I don't think that's a penalty. And then we had the offside goal. I got people hook and sinker because it was offside, but I posted the picture from a different angle.
He looks like he's on though. He does look like he's on side.
It does look like he's on, yeah. But people were like, "Oh, you're better than this." I didn't even respond. I was like, "Come on, I'm just gonna grab you by this. I'm just gonna get you by the hook." It's just funny. But at first, I was very, very convinced he was onside, and I was annoyed. Partly because when they showed the replay of the goal, when you saw the angle, it looked like it was definitely onside, and then they changed the angle completely for the referee. And this is where I feel like, I just want to know what kind. I feel like they need more straight on cameras rather, where I just go directly like this, so it's easy. There's no confusion over angles and lines and this, that, and the other. But that's fine. I think it was offside. I think it was right call in the end. I do believe it's a weird one. Johnny Evans was calling for a foul on him for Declan Rice's goal. But at the same time, I think he was also tugging Gabriel's shirt. So it's a 50-50, yep.
Yeah.
I was more annoyed at Maguire for not coming out to come and even try and close anything. He's sort of just standing there, everyone's ball watching for Declan Rice to hit that. I do actually think we should have had a penalty when Gabriel tackled Højlund. Yeah, because I looked back at first, watching the game, I was like, nah, I think they just, together.
But he puts his arm across him. He literally puts his arm across him.
Yeah, when I saw the replay, I was like, oh, this is not good. This is not good. But it's a weird one because, funny enough, today, or was it yesterday? Well, I watched it today, but I think it was released yesterday. The clip of VAR talking, the mic'd up part where we could finally hear what they were saying VAR about Onana fouling. I think, was it either Dawson or whoever was in front of Dawson when we played Wolves? Yeah. And it sounded like the guy in the VAR truck first was very convinced that it's a penalty. He says clumsy, he was saying it's a foul, and then something happens in between there where they say, "Oh, but Dawson won the header, and it looks like he's going into his own player, so it looks like it's just a collision. It's a 50-50 thing."
See,
right, this is crazy. This is a big change. How did you? I don't get it. I don't get it. But I think that was a penalty on Højlund. Personally, looking back at it, is there anything else I'm forgetting about decisions? Oh, we should have got a red card. Lindelof on Nketiah. That dirty tackle on the side.
Okay.
When he thought the ball's going out and he was jogging. It's because I think the initial foul wasn't any more than a yellow, but then his boot connects to his head.
Yeah.
I think if the referee sees that, he might have a different outlook on that. Maybe maybe it's a contentious red card.
I
But
think it was Anthony Taylor, and he's from Manchester, so maybe, maybe he
I can,
just thought, I don't want the grief when I'm walking the streets of
I,
Manchester and
I can,
Cheshire.
yeah. Well, I can tell you for free. Looking at his history of us, he does not like us. So if he sent it off again, he's in trouble in Manchester. He better move somewhere else. Um, but yeah, no. I think that was I'll say more potential red rather than a definite red. It all comes down to interpretation. Is there anything else I'm forgetting? I can't remember if there's anything else I forgot.
No, I don't think so. I think the
Nah.
third goal was a bit mad in terms of like, obviously you're pressing the high line and just got caught out.
Yeah.
Gabriel Jesus then, do you know what I mean, executed his timing, his ball, his run, the lovely exquisite finish as well at the end. But yeah, it was a tough game. It was a tough game, I think, for United to take, because I feel United should have got something out of it, regardless of the scoreline. The scoreline doesn't really reflect the performances
Yeah.
of either team. But quickly before we wrap up, but Onana obviously came out, said that he's available for international duty again. He's going to be playing potentially for the AFCON, which I think is January, February next year, 2024. You've signed a goalkeeper though on transfer deadline day for a Turkish goalkeeper.
Yeah. Alte, yeah.
Yeah, so you'd assume obviously he'll be lined up to play those games that Onana misses. Do you think that's going to be a big loss for United?
Quite honestly, not really. I
Too early to.
okay.
I
This
think it's too
goes.
early to say. I think how many games has he played? Four like competitive
Yeah.
games. So it's a bit early, I think, to say that. But he has got the quality. I love his distribution. I think he's very good at distributing the ball. And I'll be honest, I don't know much about the alternative option that you're going to be having in place in January. So I don't know if he's a very good goalkeeper or not. But
The
crucial
thing
time of
that
the season to lose someone.
Yeah, I mean the thing that those two have in common is they're both good with distribution.
Okay.
They're both good ball playing and sort of helping the team progress the ball forward. I know there's a lot more out there than him. He's a bit more reserved, but he still helps with the football with Malte. But they also have what people like to call the bozo gene a little bit, where they just do really weird things.
All goalkeepers have got that.
Exactly. So, this is why I'm like, I don't know if it's going to be too much of a miss. I do like Onana. I personally, I don't rate him as highly as other people do. That's just me. That's nothing against him. I just don't think he's as good as people believe he is. But I think he is a good goalkeeper. And I'm still, quite frankly, a bit 50-50 on if he's an upgrade on De Gea. Because you've sort of swapped out. It's the thing with football now where, again, I spoke about earlier about the coaching and where it is now, rather than just a goalkeeper being known for being a good goalkeeper. He must now pass from the fee and all that, even though people like Barthez and Reina were doing that years ago. We've seen that in the past. So it's always been there. It's just a lot more brought forward to the table now. But you've essentially said, I prefer better distribution for less of a shot stopper.
He's still getting beaten at his near post, just like De Gea. I mean, that Declan Rice goal, near post.
Yeah.
There's an argument that he should save that. I know it took a deflection, but he's got to save that. It's near post. Same thing De Gea was had a phase of that.
If he's got a stronger hand, he saves that. He's got a stronger hand, he saves that. It's very simple. Me personally, I believe that. I didn't blame him for it. I don't think anyone does blame him for it, but I think if he's honest with himself, because he did say he always looks at himself first, he probably sat there and thought, damn, I should have saved that. It's what it is. It is what it is. These things are going to happen. Some of the best goalkeepers have had absolute howlers. It's going to happen. But look, I'm just reserved on how I feel about him right now. I'm taking my time, and I'm not going to give him any crazy shouts because I just don't know what to make of him
early
just yet. But yeah, I think we'll be fine. Well, I say that our next game after the international break is Brighton, so I don't know how far we're going to be. But
Fatty hat trick. You know what's happening? Fatty's going to get the hat trick. I'll tell you.
Boy. But yeah, no. I'm not. I wasn't angry with the loss. It's never nice losing to Arsenal, but at the same time, we've had worse situations. The only thing that annoys me is second year in a row now, or second season in a row at the Emirates, we've lost to a last minute goal. That's annoying.
Yeah,
very annoying. But other than that, yeah, we'll build up and we'll see what the club does, man.
Last question before we go. Obviously, there was news that potentially that Gareth Southgate, after the Euros, is considering stepping down as England international manager. There's two questions to this actually, but the first one being, How do you select an England team and leave out Raheem Sterling, who's probably been one of the best players for England since the
Yeah,
season started? Let's be honest. And
yeah,
how do you leave out James Ward-Prowse, but you include Calvin Phillips, and you include Harry Maguire, who literally has played 50 minutes of football this season? And I mean, I didn't see the full list, but I'm assuming maybe Mark Guehi might be on there. I can imagine Tomori, if he's fit, isn't on there.
he is.
Oh, he's on there? Okay, I'll
Yeah,
take that bit back. But still, Harry Maguire is on the list and he hasn't played any football. Calvin Phillips the same as well. The first question is that a crazy decision by Southgate? And second of all, who do you want, or who would you like to see replace Gareth Southgate should he leave in 12 months' time?
I think it's a very crazy decision. I think he's a madman, quite frankly. He keeps talking about form. He's a liar. He doesn't believe in form. He believes in England form, whatever the hell that is. I can list off the names that shouldn't be in there. Harry Maguire shouldn't be in there. I don't think Kyle Walker should be in there. I don't think he started the season well. Conor Gallagher shouldn't be in there. He hasn't started well. Jordan Henderson, it's not even about being playing in Saudi Arabia. I just don't think it's of the level anymore. Calvin Phillips, are we still doing this? Are we still here? Okay, sure. Until Sunday, Marcus Rashford had not played well.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's a weird one for me. Callum Wilson hasn't started the season well for Newcastle. He scored against Brighton again this weekend. So, but you picked your squad before that. So, me personally, I just don't understand it. I'm a bit 50-50 on Grealish because I don't think Grealish has actually started well for City, but I know players like him, they make
They
it.
just walk into the team.
Yeah, they make it no matter what. So that's that one I ain't got any real issue with. But I feel like people like Jacob Ramsey, Raheem Sterling should walk in all day. If you're talking about form, starting the season,
It's got to be in.
he's a shoo-in. He's a shoo-in. I don't understand why he's not there. I don't know.
I'm taking my Chelsea bias away from it. To me, that's the most baffling thing. And I get that you can only take so many of the particular area of the team. You know, there's other players that potentially would be playing more games in England than he would. But you look at that, you got to think he's got to be in it. But crazy madness. So hopefully, you didn't answer the second part, but hopefully we get a new manager coming in 12 months. So I think it's going to be Graham Potter, if I'm honest. But who do you think will take over as successor?
I think they need to really make a real cheeky bid for Jose Mourinho.
I don't think he'll come, man. I don't want him, actually. I don't think I'd want him.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I'm gonna make a very big shout here right now. If they hire Jose Mourinho, they win the next major international tournament they're in.
But the players,
that's how far I'm going.
With the players, you'd think so, but I think he'll take the Portugal job before he take the England job.
I don't think he wants the Portugal job, you know.
The only reason I think he might consider the England job is because his family's still in London.
Big one, yeah. Big one.
That's the only thing that I think his family, his son, his daughter, his wife, I'd assume, are all in London still. And he does a lot of traveling back and forth. So that might be it.
I think he'll take. I think there's only two international jobs that would ever entice him: Portugal and England. That's why I'm putting him on my England hat on for him.
Fair show.
I just think the players that they have, he would make the players be super efficient and just grab what they need to grab.
More attacking, less defensive.
Yeah, even if it's a defensive setup per se, he's going to make sure that we maximize using Trent, Bellingham,
100%. Come on,
Kane. Now he's going to maximize that and he loves direct wingers. If you get Sterling back on that right wing, like Chelsea are doing, and to just go at, just go directly at players, I think he's going to have one hell of a time. So me personally, I think they're going to be cheeky and put a bid in for him. But I do actually agree, if they don't get him, I think Graham Potter will be next.
I agree with that. That's my shout anyway. But anyone who's listening to the podcast, make sure you go to the Twitter account. Make sure you give us your thoughts. Who do you think will be the next England manager? Do you think Liverpool are crazy not to take 200 million from for Mo Salah? I think it's crazy, but you let us know what you think as well. Also, make sure you leave your comments on YouTube, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well. We'll be back next week with another episode of Starler Play. As always, Kojo, man, pleasure. And we'll be back. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching.
Peace.